Of course, it requires moving screens. Abram sits down, his ears losing their point. Because, apparently, civilization collectively decided that proper organization should involve glowing boxes and invisible buttons instead of, I don't know, written records or memory or literally anything sensible. Row after row, thousands of words, millions of letters litter every inch of the screen, categorized by genre, word count, and author name. Each book has a letter and number code attached to it to show where it is in the library, but the shelves have long since lost their labels. Amelie keeps scrolling, hoping a miracle will jump from the screen at some point. "And pray tell," he began slowly, voice rising with each word, "how exactly are we supposed to extract meaning from this?" He gestured sharply at the screen. "Because, from where I stand, this is not a system. This is a tragedy wearing the mask of organization." I guess we'll just have to guess." She clicks on one. "Guess!" Abram snaps sharply. "Princess, there are who knows how many books in this wretched place. We haven't enough lifetimes to do it that way." "What do you want to do then?" Amelie takes a deep breath, tilting her head while changing her gaze to face Abram. Silence fills the air for a moment, because neither of them has any better ideas. The wicks on the candles get lower as Amelie continues clicking through the pages. She feels her head grow warm and her patience draw thin. So many titles, but absolutely no information. "Abram!" She starts to try and get his attention, but notices him looking at a picture near his bed. Abram lies on his blanket, his tail tucked and ears down, as he looks at a Polaroid of a woman. She has soft brown skin and beautiful long brown hair. He paws at it in silence. "Is that her?" Amelie drops to a seated position, crisscrossing her legs beside him. Abram releases a hefty sigh, the flicking candles being the only noise for a moment. "Safia, my beautiful, beautiful wife. I miss her so much, Princess." His words struggle to stay together. "I wonder if time goes normally here, or if they have a different duration outside of this place. What if a year in here is 10 out there? She may have moved on by now. Forgot about me." A few moments pass. Amelie looks at the picture of herself. "How did you meet?" He closes his eyes, tilting his head upward as he speaks. "She was a nurse during the war, and I was a foot soldier," he says, voice softening despite himself. "I kept getting injured, and she kept patching me up, scolding me like I was a recurring administrative error. I would conveniently find myself back there whenever possible, purely for medical necessity, of course." His ears dip slightly. "She always knew I'd come back, always waiting. It was her job, technically, but it never felt like just that." Amelie feels her cheeks start to blush as she imagines the scenery. He sits up a little straighter, but it doesn't help the weight in his voice. "Once the war ended, I invited her on a date," he says quietly. "And she said yes." "Of course she did." A faint, tired smile flickers. "We started seeing each other properly a week later, and for a while it felt like life had finally stopped being cruel." His ears dip. "Her family hated me naturally. I was not exactly what they wanted for her." He exhales through his nose. "I like to gamble, and I did. Quite a lot. Then it stopped being enough, so I added alcohol, then other things." His paw tightens slightly against his knee. "I always came back to her, saying I would stop. I didn't." His voice falters. She got pregnant. A pause. We were close, weeks away from delivery. I left a gambling house one night and picked her up. I shouldn't have been driving. I knew that. I told myself I was fine. His eyes lowered. His words become heavily broken at this point. We had gotten into a crash, and, the baby. He falls silent. It's okay. Amelie pets his back, her words barely a whisper. She said she forgives me, but there is no forgiveness or peace in this world for people like me, Abram cries. Amelie sits beside him, silently giving him company while he recovers. After some time passes, she wipes his eyes with her sleeves. Everything will be okay, she says quietly. Thanks. Princess? His voice deepens and quiets as he paws her hand. What's this? Amelie lifts a dusty brown journal-like book from his corner. It's her journal, Abram says quietly, brushing a thumb over the worn cover. She wrote in it every day. It was near me when I ended up here, so it came with me, I suppose. He gives a small, tired breath that almost passes for a laugh. Of course I can't read it, though. That would be far too kind. Let's open it, she says, laying it in front of him so he can make the decision. Whatever for? He regains his footing. Why not? What if one's in there? She smiles softly. It is a book. She expresses some emotion in her voice. Oh, I don't know, Princess. He shakes his head. I'm not sure I'll like what we see in there, and you don't need to see that. It might help you feel better, but we don't have to. She stands up. After a moment, he speaks. Okay, let us try. He takes a deep breath before pawing the book open. They close their eyes, preparing for impact, preparing for the chaos, the noise of their world being ripped apart and a new one being built around them. But nothing happens. They open their eyes, both of their gazes hitting the blank white pages of the journal. Her eyebrow raises as she stares at it, waiting for something to happen. Strange, Abram says, but soon after, they get their wish. Words start to be sketched onto the pages, not as if they're typed, but as if they're being written by hand. An old, highly skilled writing in cursive decorates the pages, but Amelie doesn't know how to read this type. Slowly, but soon enough, half the page is written upon. Abram's eyes stay wide, dilated, and focused on his wife's seemingly sentient journal. Amelie reaches forward, laying her hand on the page. A loud thud hits her ears, everything but her, Abram, and the book being shrouded in a black shroud. The light, or whatever may be keeping them lit up, flickers before fully fading, leaving her in a pit of darkness. Abram? She asks, her voice reverberating and echoing off the non-existent walls, bouncing right back to her ears. Are you there? She says, looking down to find her hands, but they're not there. Light slowly fades back, as if removing fog, giving her back her field of view piece by piece. Warm air hits her face with a scent of spice and something floral she can't quite pinpoint. It feels dusty, old, but not forgotten. She feels her hands come back to her, flexing her fingers as she comes back to reality. She feels a soft bed beneath herself, low and wide, layered with thick embroidered fabric. Deep reds, soft golds, and faded oranges blend together like a sunset that never fully ends. Pillows are stacked around her, each one stitched with unique patterns, Sunlight spills through lattice windows set into arched stone walls. The light breaks into patterned shapes across the floor, shifting slowly as if the sun itself is thinking before it moves. Dust drifts through it like suspended time. Amelie looks around the room and notices a tall mirror set into the wall, its wooden frame curved at the top and carved with simple, repeating patterns. She walks over slowly and stops in front of it, tilting her head as she studies her reflection. She's wearing a simple, pretty outfit she doesn't remember putting on, soft cream fabric with faint gold stitching along the edges, loose and light, falling comfortably around her as it belongs there. For a moment, she just stares at herself quietly, then a small smile slips onto her face as she turns slightly and watches how the fabric moves with her. It feels strange, but in a nice way, like she's been dressed for sunlight without knowing it. "Oh," she says softly, almost surprised, and then she does a small spin just to see the skirt sway out and settle again. When she stops, she looks back at the mirror and nods a little to herself. She hears voices push their way into the room, feeling goosebumps rise up her arms. She peeks her head out, peering around the corner to see the kitchen. A small family sits at a circular table, eating eggs, toast, and orange juice together, speaking, but she can't make out any words. She feels a nervous air breathe over her, as if she's in a random family's house uninvited. "What are they gonna think I am?" she says, feeling her heart rate rise drastically. "Good morning, Habibti," she says softly, as if this is the most natural thing in the world. Her voice carries a quiet kindness, like it's been waiting for Amelie to wake up. She gestures toward the table with an easy hand. "Come, sit with us. Breakfast is ready." "Ah, okay," she says, bowing her head as she joins the table. "Today, I'm going outside early," he says quickly, crumbs already clinging to his fingers. "I'm going to the market street first, and then I want to see if the old man by the fountain fixed his little metal birds yet. And after that," he pauses dramatically, as if building suspense for no reason at all, "I'm going to try and win back my marbles from Khalid, because last time he cheated and everyone knows it." "Safia," the deep-voiced older man states, and everyone's eyes dart to the beautiful young lady sitting across from Amelie. Amelie stares without meaning to. That must be Abram's wife. She's really beautiful. It feels strange thinking it so plainly, like it should be more complicated than that. "Father," she starts, voice lighter than her nerves. She pauses, then continues a bit faster, as if she says it quickly. It might hurt less. "Abram asked if I would come with him later, just to the Riverwalk. He said there's something he wants to show me." The room changes noticeably. A pause in chewing, a slight stillness in the air, and her father doesn't look up right away. "No," he says simply. Safia blinks, like she expected resistance, but not how cleanly it arrives. Her father exhales through his nose, shaking his head once. Not with Abram. Safia opens her mouth a little, then closes it again, her shoulders tightening just slightly. "It's just the Riverwalk," she tries quieter now, almost careful not to challenge him. "He said—" "I don't care what he said," her father interrupts, not raising his voice, but making it final anyway. He leans back slightly in his chair, gaze steady. "That boy brings noise wherever he goes. Trouble follows him like a shadow he refuses to notice." "Father," she says, her voice raising an octave in defeat. She stares at him for a moment before rising to her feet, fixing her dress and storming to her room. The room sits in an awkward silence, everyone just poking their food till the awkwardness subsides. "She's not getting smaller, my love. She's growing." The mother refills her husband's cup. A man pokes at the window quietly, only loud enough that Amelie notices. He looks familiar as he beckons her to come out. "Princess, I... the man starts. "Abram!" Amelie jogs over, touching his face with her hands. "Abram, this is you?" She speaks quickly. Abram is tall with soft brown skin. He has fluffy and oddly messy curly brown hair and bright brown eyes. He's much more muscular than she had thought he'd be and is dressed in a nice all-brown outfit. "Is she all right?" he asks, tugging her hands from his face, his grip just a little too firm. "She's okay. This isn't how I imagined you," Amelie continues. "Amelie, focus," he says quickly, eyes scanning the space like he does not trust it. "This matters. Today is—" He stops, jaw tightening, then exhales through his nose. "No, not here. I am not doing this here." "Why? What happened today?" "We need to move," he cuts in, already turning away. "We go find me. I know where I am." He glances back at her just for a second. "Come." Amelie follows a few steps behind him, trying to keep up as he moves faster and faster. The air outside feels warm and bright, like the sun is sitting close to everything. The street they step into feels alive in a calm way. Buildings are made of light stone and soft colors, with carved windows and wooden balconies that lean out, like they are watching the street below. Long pieces of fabric hang between the buildings and move gently when the wind passes through them. People walk by carrying baskets and trays, talking quietly as they pass, like no one is ever in a hurry. As they walk farther, the street slowly changes. It becomes busier and louder. The colors feel deeper. The sounds feel closer. Amelie hears music now, soft drums and string sounds coming from somewhere she cannot see yet. The smell in the air changes too, from bread and spices to something stronger and heavier like smoke and metal and sugar all mixed together. Abram keeps walking without looking back. They turn a corner together and the streets seem to disappear immediately. The entire environment drops. A large, cartoony-like building sits in the distance with circular walls, bright colors, and a massive door adorning the building's side. No parking lot sits here, but she hasn't seen a vehicle anyway, so that's not surprising. The sky has lost its bright hue, as if a black shadow is fully encapsulating this and only this building. Amelie gulps deeply as they approach the doorway. "Princess, when you see me in here, remember that I am no longer that man," he says deeply, laying his hand on the doorknob. He takes a deep breath, swinging the door open. The constant clinks and lever pull noises immediately pour out of the door, assaulting Amelie's ears. The digital high-stakes ringing music is eroding from machines that litter every wall. A bright red and white carpet adorns the floor, and a massive golden chandelier hangs above them, threatening to crash down. A few people-esque humanoids sit at a few of the slot machines, playing them brainlessly. Long, slim bodies, covered in a fully black latex-like outfit. Their heads have no hair nor any features, and are just empty, smooth, large black cylinders. They insert small gold coins into the slot on the machine, pull the lever, and stare, waiting for some sort of happy release. They repeat. They stare. They watch and repeat. Amelie tilts her head in pity as she watches one. By the Lord, I am not here. He brushes sweat from his brow. You've been here before? Amelie asks. Of course it didn't look like this, Abram says immediately, brushing a hand through his hair as he stares at the machines, which have personally insulted him. Nothing used to look like this. It was simpler, less glowing nonsense, more honest suffering. He steps closer to one of the machines and rests a hand against it, almost familiar with it, without meaning to be. This was my seat, my throne, if you prefer accuracy, he adds, glancing at Amelie. I would sit here from the moment I woke up until I was meant to see Sophia. Spin, 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 very efficient use of time, if you ignore the loss. His mouth twists slightly. I'd order a bucket of ale, stay long enough that they stopped asking and just brought it, like it was part of the service. At some point, it stops being gambling and starts being routine, he says more quietly, tapping the machine once. And routine is a very dangerous thing when you're trying to convince yourself you're in control. Amelie pulls the lever back on one, but due to the lack of coins, it does nothing. I missed my grandma's funeral just to sit here and stare at this cursed machine. He draws silent for a moment. He grunts, thrusting his fist forward to collide with the wide screen, but it eats the punch and doesn't cave in at all. Amelie flinches backward at the random show of aggression, taking one more step back for good measure. He brings his hand back, bright red now, and it shakes as he puts it back to his side. Sophia's father was right not to want her around me. Even given my bountiful start in life, I still managed to do nothing of value. Don't talk like that. She lays her hand on his shoulder, but he shrugs her off. Amelie looks behind them, seeing a counter manned by a weird robot-looking thing. A counter with a cash register on it and a coin dropper sitting beside it. Behind the creature is a rack that holds different prizes and rewards, but she's too far to actually make them out. Amelie rises to her feet, starting to march towards it to get them some coins, but slows down as she gets close enough to fully see the creature. It's a large TV-like thing having a cartoony face on the screen with large, blinking, empty pupils. It has long, black, slender legs connecting with red sneakers on the floor. Its long, slender, black arms connect to huge white gloves that squeeze the fingers in and out. Its ambience bounces up and down in a show of excitement as she comes near. Hello, she says nervously, feeling incredibly tiny and vulnerable in front of this thing. It tilts downwards to lock eyes with her as it continues bouncing, not speaking a word or changing how it acts. Her fingers tighten around the edge of her sleeve until the fabric bunches in her hand, twisting slightly as she holds on. The prizes on the racks are different black boxes with no information about what could be inside them. They are all 50 of some sort of currency. It has no name, but looks like small blue gems. Beside the counter is a trash can-like object with a turning lid that holds a platform that has the same blue gem icon on it. She reaches into her bag, grabbing out many multicolored bills with numbers that are much higher than what she's used to seeing. The bills seem to float from the counter directly into the cash register, and soon after, the coin dropper spits out a basket that holds dozens of small golden coins that have a hole in the center of them. The coins have a variety of symbols, from bottles to rings to pens and butterflies. "I got coins," Amelie says happily, sitting the basket between them both as she sits down. "I don't know, Princess. It's probably best if I abstain." "Nope." She opens his hand, laying a coin on it. "It's probably how we get out of this story, so..." She picks up a coin, inserting it into the slot. There are a variety of different icons on the screen, from different numbers to fruits and then some odd balls, like teddy bears or axes. They all start to spin downward so fast that they just blur into different colors. It rings, making ticking noises with a small jingle playing as it slows down, revealing 3 of the icons in a line. Axe 6. "What does this mean?" Amelie tugs on Abram's sleeve. 3 of the same icon in a row," he says, watching the machine instead of her. "Then you win." "Okay." She puts another coin in and pulls the lever. Axe 6 once more, and then again. "How long does it usually take?" She leans back, huffing a large exhale of boredom. "Who knows?" he says, eyes fixed on the screen. "Time is not exactly fair here." A growling, wailing noise emanates from one of the oracles in the center of the casino floor. A loud celebration jingle rings from the top of a machine as the screen rotates through 3 different eye-piercingly bright colors, with the word "winner" being repeated on screen and in a weird robotic voice overhead. The oracle celebrates awkwardly, in a strange form of raising the roof slowly. A cone of sorts pushes out of the top of the machine and slowly droops downward. A handful of large, gray, edgy stones rains in front of the oracle, starting to litter the ground. He scavenges them all, loading them into the old falling-apart brown book bag, and starts sprinting toward a door in the back. He disappears, and the casino resets to the lifeless clinks and rings once again. Another jingle goes off, then another, until the sounds stop feeling separate and turn into one long noise that won't go away. Stones scatter across the floor and bump into her shoes, while oracles rush past her like she isn't there, and she shifts her weight again because her feet are starting to hurt, her fingers curling into her sleeves as she pulls them close. But the winner! Voices begin to overlap and twist into something that doesn't sound like words anymore. And when she looks at the machines, the colors spin too fast to follow, making her head feel warm as the room starts to feel smaller, too full, like there isn't enough space to breathe. And even when she presses her hands over her ears, the noise is still there. "How?" she shouts, the loudest she thinks she ever has. She leans backward so much that her chair falls over, toppling her down onto the ground head first. "I can't do it anymore. This sucks. It's been so long that the noise is so annoying." She sits crisscrossed on the floor, crossing her arms with blushing cheeks. Abram lets out a short laugh, shaking his head as he watches the flashing machines before glancing back at her. He runs a hand through his hair like the noise itself is starting to wear thin. "Good. That is the correct conclusion," he says. "Gambling is terrible, Princess. It convinces you you are always one spin away from being clever and then quietly proves you are not." He gives a small, dry scoff and steps through the scattered stones like they are nothing worth acknowledging. I am glad you dislike it, he adds, offering a hand to help her up, though his tone makes it sound more like a practical observation than praise. Thanks. She gets back to her feet, looking up at him. Where did you get that? She reaches up, touching a large, dull red scar on his cheek. You're far too touchy, Princess, now that I am a human again. He sits back down, putting another coin in. I got it from Baltgur, a battle we had about 5 years ago, or, add on however long I've been in the library as well. She sits her chair back up, sitting in it lazily as she takes another deep breath. We were out in Baltgur, desert heat everywhere, trench full of noise and dust, Abram says casually, like he's telling a story he's repeated too many times, leaning back with his hands loosely at his sides. I was meant to be watching the table for the others, just covering their plays while they moved forward. He gives a small shrug and a faint, almost proud smile. Then things got crowded, fast call, fast decision. Someone pushed their luck too hard, and I matched it. He glances at Amelie briefly, then back toward the flashing machines. That is where this came from. Winner! The machine shouts overhead, Amelie seeing the cone start to rise from the top. Eek! Amelie steps back excitedly, knocking the chair down behind her. 7, 7. A line of the same 7 icons lights up the screen, turning into a flashing red and white screen that says, Winner! Abram stares at Amelie as her eyes twinkle in pure excitement, her teeth peering bright white as she holds a large smile on her face. 7 large gray rocks rain from the sky, thumping onto the ground and staying still. I won! She falls to her knees, pushing all the rocks together. That you did! Abram rises to his feet. The rocks are much heavier than they look, and Amelie struggles to move many of them at once. What do I do with these? She says, still smiling, as the casino resets back to normality. I'm not sure. Believe it or not, rocks are not the usual currency in my home. She says, staring blankly at the ground. Her eyes turn behind her to the door that other thing left out of when he had won his rocks. She hops back to her feet, holding one of the rocks in hand, a look of confidence on her face. I'll be right back. She starts toward the door. Take care, Princess, Abram says, zoning out as his machine clicks. She pushes the door open, the bright lights and annoying clicks staying behind without her. Out here is an alleyway, with only a few flickering or dim lights hanging on the wall to illuminate it. It's a long alleyway, leading back to some sort of door with a small line of oracles clutching backpacks and waiting semi-patiently. Many more oracles lay on the ground, some twitching, some drinking from bottles, others lay completely still. Amelie has to dodge and step over the bodies as she gets to the line, waiting patiently for her turn. Her arms grow weak by the time the oracle in front of her finishes his time, allowing her access to the door. The compartment in the door slides open as she steps up, and she drops the rock inside. The compartment slides shut again as a smashing, grinding noise comes from the inside. Not as if someone is using tools, more so if something was. She can't really picture what is happening inside. The compartment opens back up, a brown paper bag shooting out with force, slamming back down onto the wall. Thanks, she says, clutching the bag to her chest as she returns to Abram. What happened, Princess? He beckons, his eyes not leaving the machine. He has many more rocks at his feet now, clearly getting lucky whilst she was gone. Amelie sits back into her chair, opening the paper bag to unveil a dull blue gem. It doesn't feel fragile, and it doesn't feel special at all. It just feels like another rock. Do we need 50 of these? Amelie holds it up to the light before dropping it back into the bag. She blows upwards, pushing her bangs off her forehead. We'll get there soon enough. Maybe, he barks, pulling the lever again. Amelie yawns, bringing her feet to her chest as she leans back in her chair. I've never liked games very much, she whispers, her eyelids growing heavy. My mom liked them when I was very young, board games and word searches. What did you do for fun then, Princess? He says. The noises draw much quieter, all the noises that would spike her blood pressure now falling into a blend. She purses her lips together as she shimmies to get herself comfortable. Sleep? Read. I didn't really leave the house much, she says quietly. Then noises fade into a dark black. It's peaceful here, like being wrapped in a blanket that is just the right amount of warm, like her bed at home when the world outside is too big and she knows nothing can reach her under the covers. She hears clinks as the noise of this partial reality returns to hit her ears. She slowly opens her eyes, stretching her arms and grunting as she sits up. Abram no longer has his overcoat on. He has laid it over her as a makeshift blanket. She takes a minute, sadly realizing she's still here. There are worse places to be, at least. Good morning, Princess. Slept well, I hope. He pulls the lever back again. Nothing changed whilst she was gone. There are many more rocks down at their feet now, but as she counts, she gets saddened by the fact that it's not enough yet. We're at like 38, Princess. We are drawing near. He smiles, but doesn't take his eyes from the machine. How can you do this for so long? She holds the overcoat closely. This is nothing to me, sadly, Abram says with an easy shrug, giving a lazy spin as another wind lights up the machine. I've spent days here without rest, so this doesn't exactly feel new. He gestures loosely at the growing pile of stones like it's just clutter. It almost feels calming this time, if you can believe it. Nothing to lose but time, and time here already stopped behaving properly anyway. He steps back and kicks a few more rocks into place without even looking at them. Worth isn't some fixed thing, Princess. It's just what you decide something means while you're standing there deciding it. Amelie looks around the casino, seeing the staircase that was previously in a dark spot of the casino, now illuminated by new lights. A long, wide staircase with thick yellow steps leads up to a second-story balcony. Another TV-esque humanoid stands at the top, this one being far more threatening. She can't fully make out his features, but he's not bouncing or inviting people to draw near. Were your dreams kind to you? Abram asks, blankly. I don't think it's good for you to be playing this for so long, she says, sitting up fully now, leaning towards him. You're acting very differently than you usually do. She pulls the lever on his machine down. One of us has to, Abram says, giving a small matter-of-fact shrug as another machine lights up behind him. We can't both just fall asleep in a place like this and expect someone to magically come collect 50 dirty blue rocks for us. He glances at the pile like it's mildly insulting. There is probably something questionable in there too. Drugs, bad decisions, the usual. A faint smirk tugs at his mouth. Younger me would have been absolutely insistent on confirming that theory. She curls up again. If you say so, she says. You don't snore when you sleep? I thought you would. You're far more talkative while you're out, though, oddly enough, Princess. What did I say? She speaks quickly, leaning forward again. Abram giggles tauntingly but doesn't respond, continuing on his machine. Abram! She speaks louder now, leaning forward and shoving his side. What did I say? I didn't say anything. She pouts. Whatever, she says, rising to her feet. Be careful, Princess, he barks as she storms off. She climbs the steps towards the ominous, lingering figure, it turning to track her as she draws near. This one is far taller. Amelie stops at the top step, staring nearly straight up as if she's looking up towards a building. It has the same screen face, but its eyes hold no pupils, just the white part. Its mouth is also smiling, but it has an odd glitch, the side parts of it twitching up and down at random. It doesn't have the bounce to it, just standing there menacingly. Its hands are much more active, too, reaching out all around it as if it's feeling out the environment. Behind it on the wall is a doorway, looking a lot like the door back at the library, but instead of all the missing cogs, it has a singular padlock. Hello, she says, reaching near the creature's feet. It has a strange coin slot on it, much like the slot machines, but this one is a lot more slim. It reminds her of the ticket eater at arcades. Winner! She hears Abram's machine light off again, dropping more rocks onto the ground. I've gotta go. Amelie waves at the machine, hopping back down the stairs quickly. Princess, I dare say I have excellent news, Abram says, lifting a small handful of the stones between his fingers like he's presenting something far more impressive than it is. He gives them a light shake, satisfied. We have, by some miracle of poor judgment and persistence, reached 50. A small smile settles on his face as he looks at her, like he's genuinely pleased with the result, despite himself. They join the line of oracles waiting at the door in the alleyway, the line never seeming to shrink or grow. One leaves, one comes, an endless cycle. Who's Janice? Abram asked, holding the last of the rocks they need to crack open. What? Her voice squeaks. So I did say something. She smacks his arm. What did I say? Just something about her and giggling, not too much. A lot of mumbling and incoherent babble. He mocks her with noises. I hate you. They take a few steps forward. She was my friend before my mom took me out of school. She crosses her arms. We would make up together and dance and go to the arcade. I never really liked the arcade, but it was fine. Why were you removed from school? Abram asks blankly. My father didn't want me leaving the house, she says blankly, as they finally reach the door. Right, Abram says softly, finally glancing at her before returning his eyes to the machine. That is not your fault, Princess. Just an unfortunate way for people to behave. One by one, they send all the gemstones into the trash can machine. It makes a clink noise as it passes the lid, and a thunk after a few seconds as it smacks the bottom. I wonder what a place like this is even doing with these rocks, Abram says, turning one over between his fingers like he's trying to solve it out of spite. Maybe they're selling them on some sort of television-backed black market for very unfortunate minerals. He gives a small, amused huff. Either that or this place just enjoys making people carry things for no reason at all, which honestly feels more likely. Dirty work isn't always hard work, but sometimes it is. "That doesn't even mean anything," she says bluntly, watching him load the rocks into the machine. Abram pauses just long enough to glance over his shoulder, expression flat with exaggerated offense. "You know," he says, carefully placing another stone in, "when you were much more reserved and quiet, you were significantly more tolerable." He dusts his hands off like the matter is settled. "You're getting quite bratty, Princess." Once all 50 rocks are loaded in, it makes a loud popping noise, and confetti shoots from the top, dousing Abram in paper. A ticket is pushed out of the side of the coin dropper, and Amelie quickly snags it to safety. "Sure, I don't mind. I only did all the work for you to reap my rewards." He rolls his eyes as she steps up to the counter. "Hi," she says quietly, sliding the ticket towards the TV creature, who just stares down at her silently. The slip is sucked into the cash register, the TV man reaching his large hand up and slowly reaching towards a lever on his side. He pulls it down, his face disappearing as if being sucked up from the top of the machine, a slot game taking its place. Every icon is the same black box with no indication of what it could mean. Surely it has the understanding of its own game at least. It stops rotating soon after, unbelievably landing on 3 identical black boxes in a row. The machine does an awkward dance, no music accompanying it, leaving only the thumps of its very heavy feet colliding on the ground to back it. "This is great, I guess," Abram says sarcastically, faking a smile at the large potential murder machine. It turns around, its limbs flailing everywhere as it snatches a specific black box. It presents it to Amelie very dramatically, like a magician revealing a bunny from a hat. Amelie looks back and forth from the TV's face, and it's shaking hands. It feels much more human-like now, which is not a feeling of comfort. She slowly reaches forward, laying a finger on the hand, shaking as she lifts it an inch upward. "Ah!" she screams as the TV immediately lunges backward, moving like a crazed person, returning to its original position. "My gosh!" She lays her hand on her chest, breathing heavily. "I don't like these things. They're mons." He stops himself. "I should be careful with what I say, I wager. Come." They return to their seats. Amelie is still shaking hands, pry the top of the box off, dropping it to the floor as they peer inside. "Yes, great job, Princess!" Abram celebrates happily. "You did the work," she whispers quietly, pulling out the item inside. It's a metallic heart shape with sharp rectangle edges adoring certain seemingly random spots. "Is it?" "Yes, I would wager it is." He grabs it, holding it up to the light. "Our first one! We did it!" Amelie notices a small slip of paper sticking to the back of the cog and rips it off, seeing it simply say, "Ticket." "Let's leave." She gets to her feet, watching him still staring at the cog in disbelief. "Now," she reaches up and takes the cog, walking towards the stairs. "You're getting far too comfortable, Princess." He shakes his head sarcastically. She excitedly runs to the TV creature's feet, ignoring its hands this time, trying to line the slip up with the ticket insert slot. Before she feels its hand grab onto her back, she looks up to its face, her eyes filling with fear as the other hand grabs the other side of her. She feels her heart sink beneath her feet as they're lifted up from the ground. "Abram!" she shouts, kicking her legs and smacking with her arms. But the machine is unfazed. "Drop her!" He tugs and tugs and tugs at the creature's arm, but it feels no resistance. It opens the door in the back, tossing Amelie in, shutting the door behind her. The room is pitch black. She can feel tiles beneath her hands, the same tiles she used to feel at hospitals. A light clicks on above her with a huge booming thud as it lights up the room. The TV creature walks towards Abram, who takes a few steps back cautiously. It stops in front of him, starting to do the same ambient, inviting bounce as the one that's downstairs. He approaches cautiously, holding his hand very still as he inserts the ticket into the slot. It jerks backwards suddenly, making Abram jump backwards as it takes a few steps toward the wall. It smashes on the door with great force until it caves in. The creature tears the door from the wall, tossing it far aside, where it crashes with an echoing thud. The creature steps to the side while bouncing and beckons Abram to walk through the door. A pod sits inside, with a revolving door that latches around him as he enters. Black smoke fills the pod as well as Amelie's room, quickly taking them from this reality. Abram's eyes slowly open, coughing bellowing out of him as he shakily rises to his feet. The room around him is pure blackness and seems to stretch on forever behind him. In front of him lies another slot machine, holding much more distinct icons this time. 2 screens adorn the wall, one on each side of the slot machine, bearing 2 blank white rooms, holding 2 people who are near and dear to him inside. Amelie sits in the screen on the left, and Sophia sits in the screen on the right. 3 heart icons sit at the top right corner of each screen, as if a counter to some metric. A door on the far side of the room has 3 padlocks on it, as it seems like it was meant to be hidden out of the way to keep it out of mind. The slot machine is identical to all the others, although the icons now are much more near and dear to him. One is a door icon, one is a yellow flower, and the other is a teddy bear. There are a few more various icons, but they're much more brutal and hard to explain. Lines darting in random circles, shapes inexplicable to his mind, as if these icons were made by a madman mid-mania. Abram lays his hand on Sophia's screen, seeing her knocking on the door, seemingly begging to get out. Amelie, on her screen, is kneeling down, trying to open some sort of wind-up music box. He takes a seat at the machine, taking a deep breath before pulling the lever downward. No currency needed, oddly enough. Click, 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 click. It finally slows down, 3 of the icons smashing in place. One of the inexplicable icons lay on the left, an image of the door in the center, and a brown teddy bear on the right. A buzzing, Shocky-esque noise sounds from the slot machine in a quiet, constant hum. One of the padlocks on the door makes a clicking noise as it disconnects, falling to the floor with a thud. Amelie freezes. She looks down at herself like something should feel different, like she's missing something she can't see. "What was that?" she whispers, but it feels wrong even saying it. She finally gets the music box to work, the lever starting to wind and wind, playing an enchanting, soft piano melody. Abram watches through the TV screen as the top of the box pops upward, lunging a small, brightly colored clown upward. "Ka-ah!" Amelie yelps as the clown, maliciously holding a sharp steak knife, pokes it into her face during its upward extension. She tries to speak again, but nothing comes out right. Her breath catches halfway and refuses to finish. Her hands scramble backward against the floor, but her body moves too fast for her thoughts to follow. "Amelie," he starts, then stops like the rest of the sentence refuses to come out correctly. His jaw tightens, fingers curling and uncurling at his side before he moves again. She tries to move back, but her hands slip wrong against the floor like she can't decide where her body is supposed to be. Her breathing gets louder than the room, sharp and uneven, and she stops trying to speak altogether. Abram opens his mouth to speak and begs for them to let her go, but stops himself. He draws his eyes close, taking a deep breath before reaching out to the lever once more. His fingers flex once, slowly, like he's testing whether the pain matters enough to acknowledge. "Of course," he mutters under his breath. "Of course it does that now." He flexes his fingers to stretch them back out before laying his hand down and pulling the lever once more. Click, 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 click. It slows to a stop again. Two brutal, jagged cymbals slam into place side by side, and then the third slows, slowing, before settling on a small, soft-petaled yellow flower, its shape almost glowing against the harsh screen, fragile and out of place among the rest. There's a moment where he doesn't speak at all. "No," he says finally, quietly at first, like the word is wrong and he's correcting reality. Then it breaks. "No," he says, even quieter now. He doesn't move at first. His eyes stay fixed, as if he stares long enough, the result might change. That's not how it was supposed to go. The walls around Sophia start to shake and rumble before moving as if on their own volition. All four start moving inwards, marching towards Sophia, who takes steps back, spinning around with big, wide eyes. "God damn it!" Abram shouts, punching his fist into the shadowy black wall, leaving with a bright red blush. Abram hurriedly sits back down, hearing the electric humming on the lever, now amplified tenfold. He grabs the lever, gritting his teeth as he pulls the lever down. And the clicking stops. The teddy bear, a door, and a yellow flower. Another one of Amelie's hearts pops on screen as the door flies open viciously. A clown, identical to the one from the music box, sprints inside towards Amelie in the corner. She tries to push herself into the corner to avoid him, but her attempts are fruitless. The clown lifts her off the ground. Her voice breaks apart into fragments of sound that don't form words anymore. The TV screen starts to flicker to fully black and back every few moments as the clown hoists his knife high. His head slowly turns like an owl, 180 degrees, to look up at the camera. Another padlock falls from the door, but Abram's focus is far from being on that at the moment. Sophia's door flies open as well, a small gray object being tossed inside. A part of it flies off as a dark gray smoke fills her room. She tries to push to the corner to avoid the smoke, covering her face with her sleeves, but the walls push her closer and closer as the seconds pass. Abram hurries back to the seat, realizing he may be on a time limit to keep them alive. He closes his eyes, grits his teeth, and pulls the lever down, keeping his eyes closed to silence any hurt he may see. His grip doesn't loosen afterward. Even when the machine stops, his hand stays there, as if letting go would confirm what just happened. He hears the ticking draw to a stop, and then complete silence. He hears the final padlock fall from its placement, smacking the ground with a small tink. He slowly opens his eyes, his entire body trembling as his eyes dart to the screens. The clown is gone from Amelie's room, leaving her sitting in the corner, visibly shaking. Her door slowly draws open, but she just stares at it, unmoving. Sophia's screen is a static ambient block now. Now vision in and now sound cues as to what happened. He looks at the slot machine, seeing 2 door icons and a yellow flower. Movement falls scarce, no music or ticks, no footsteps, not even the sound of breathing. "Abram," Amelie calls out, tiptoeing out the doorway. "My apologies, Sophia," he says, laying his hand on the screen as the door behind him creaks open. Amelie opens her eyes. For a moment, she doesn't move, like she's not sure the room is real. Then she sits up too fast, breathing sharp, and stumbles back into her bed, pulling the blanket over herself like it might close the world out. "Princess," Abram calls out, his voice echoing in the silent halls. She flinches at his voice like it's too loud. "Shh!" She hears the librarian whisper scream from afar as well. "Don't lecture me, you oaf!" Abram shouts. Amelie shrinks deeper into the blanket at the sound, pressing her hands over her ears for a second too long before realizing she is still safe. She touches her cheek slowly, pulling her hand away to reveal a river of red. She stares at it without understanding for a moment, then curls her fingers closed as she can hide it. "Princess, are you all right?" Abram's paw steps pitter-patter towards her. "I think," she says, peering out from her blanket as he climbs atop her mattress. "Ah, that looks grim." He reaches a paw up, and Amelie flinches backwards. "I'm sorry," he says. She nods. "On the bright side, Princess, come hither." He prances towards the door. She follows, picking up pace as the librarian watches silently through the shelves. "Place the cog in the heart shape. I'm sure you could have figured that one out." Abram takes a seat. Amelie hoists the cog from her bag, lining up the center hole with the outpoint from the door. She uses all of the force she can muster, jamming it into place as the chains on the sides move slightly less rigidly now. The door still tries to move, rotating the cog as it attempts, but without the other cogs, it has no freedom to move yet. "We did it, Princess," Abram says, a sentence that should be energetic and excited, sounding blank and empty, though. Amelie nods, clutching her hands together at her chest. "I want my bed," she says quietly, like she's asking permission to disappear. Abram nods too, his fake demeanor from a few moments ago fading quickly. Amelie hides under her blankets, clutching her knees closely. She feels tears leave her eyes slowly at first, but more and more as time passes. She bites onto her blanket, grinding her teeth to stay silent. She can hear another stifled noise in the distance, which brings her an odd sort of negative-feeling comfort. Love isn't supposed to feel like something you could lose by accident.